We begin in New York. In a widely expected move, the United Nations General Assembly has re-elected Ban Ki-moon to a second 5-year term as Secretary General.
To commemorate the 20th anniversary of the Republic of Korea joining the UN, today, good Koreans in the UN. At the United Nations Children's Fund, or UNICEF headquarters in New York, a conference call is underway. Regional offices in 7 countries are holding their monthly meeting. Attending this conference call is a Korean UN staff, Hyun Cheol Ho.
One of the mistakes or easier sides to fall into is that by communication, one is just sharing the information, basically saying these are, X, Y, Z, these are the types of things that will be happening. But I think that is just the beginning part, and there's an equally, if not more important part, which is to be hearing back from those colleagues for whom the ways that in which the work is being conducted are going to be changed.
Ahead of time. Yeah? Chulo, if we can go to the hacks one.
Hyun is a communications specialist at UNICEF's Change Management Office. Work has been hectic lately due to ongoing policy changes worldwide. Hyun's duties include coordinating and tracking the implementation of the policy changes.
Everyone is noting that we have a colleague. With that, we're going to turn to the first agenda item, giving the floor to colleagues Bastian and other colleagues in the regional office. So, regional office, over to you, please.
At this meeting, the regional offices are reporting back on progress made. So far, the policy changes are being implemented accordingly on the ground.
And done whatever tidying up that you need to do in line with the instructions.
After about an hour, the conference call ends. For his professionalism, Hyun is highly regarded and respected by his colleagues.
I think what's very, very important in the work that Chulu does is that you need a lot of patience. And I think that's also very, very important in the role and the functions that he's doing. Listen to what people need and what they want, and able to respond to that. And I think his pleasant personality is invaluable to the work that we are doing.
UNICEF provides humanitarian and developmental assistance to children around the world. 10 years ago, Hyun signed on with UNICEF, but he's a relative newcomer to the New York headquarters. Until about a year ago, Hyun had been stationed in war-torn nations such as Afghanistan and Uganda. As a spokesperson, he toured various areas in need.
Obviously, in working at the field level, one is that much closer to the actual communities, focused communities where UNICEF-supported programs are being implemented, be it in education, be it in health, be it in child protection issues, work in the sector of HIV and AIDS for children who are living with HIV and AIDS. There is that sense, I think, much more of immediacy. On the other end of the spectrum of being based in headquarters, there's an additional, I think, benefit, the privilege also of seeing from getting that overall overview and being that much, I think, closer to how decisions that have more of a policy ramification are being made.
Hyun joined UNICEF to realize a lifelong dream of his.
It was, I think, quite logical that as I matured, that I got to realize that the influence that the United Nations system, and indeed an agency like UNICEF, has had on the lives of Koreans has been extremely positive. And so as the opportunity arose to apply for a position in UNICEF and to begin working for this organization, that type of personal recognition and personal motivation to be a part of what I very much saw as being a force for good.
Since moving to New York, Hyun has been able to spend more time with his colleagues, some of whom he had met out on the field years ago. Together, they often reminisce about their past field experiences. Kent has been a colleague since Hyun's days in Afghanistan.
Cheol Ho led the communication effort that supported this whole Back to School campaign, making sure that people were aware of the campaign, making sure that they knew what school to go to, what time to be there. And of course, there was a lot of international media interest in this story. And so working with Cheol Ho to make sure that the media got to the right places and covered the stories. And most importantly, they told the stories of the girls going back to school.
Also rating Hyun highly is Melissa, a co-worker in the Change Management Office.
And Cheol Ho sets a standard for performance for the rest of us to follow, because many of us might be a little more disorganized or might not be as focused. Cheol Ho sets an excellent example for us in terms of how to get things done and how to be very straightforward.
Another hectic yet productive day at work is over. Eager to go home to his wife and 2 daughters, Hyun quickens his strides. For Hyun, his family is the other great source of joy besides work. They're the driving force in Hyun's life. Upon arrival at home, Hyun is warmly welcomed by his young daughters.
Hi, guys. Thank you very much.
A model colleague at work and a model father at home. Hyun's been around the world with his family over the past 10 years.
For me and for us, actually it's very simple in the sense that without the support, without the power, without the love that comes from a family that is helping each other out, that is supporting each other, none of the work side would be possible.
For United Nations Children's Fund.
What does E
The Hyuns are a close-knit family. It's likely due to their travels around the world and the adventures that they've shared.
By UNICEF. Yeah.
Through all the ups and downs, Hyun's wife has been by his side, supporting him lovingly.
Pink and black, that's great.
No regrets. I think it was never even an option for me to stay and keep my career and have Choroshi go to Pakistan or Afghanistan or Uganda by himself, because when we're married, we're actually just living one life together. We're not living separate lives and visiting one another's lives.
Hyun's elder daughter, Tabin, loves to dance. So she used to dream of becoming a singer. But recently she's had a change of heart. Inspired by her dad, Tabin now wants to follow in his footsteps.
My dream is to become a UNICEF worker like my daddy, because it inspired me. Because when he visited all these countries in Africa, I thought it was really cool to meet other kids and other cultures.
New York may well be known as the city that never sleeps. Yet here too, a day draws to a close. And another day begins. Hyun has a morning ritual of sorts. It's to look at the photos of children in Africa, displayed in the lobby of the UNICEF headquarters. Through the pictures, Hyun relives his 5 years in Uganda, albeit briefly. During Hyun's stint, the East African nation had been mired in internal strife. And children became victims of war through violence, exploitation, and trafficking, among other abuses. As the UNICEF Chief of Communication, Hyun helped secure the world's attention on the horrors that unfolded in Uganda. The professional mission was also a personal mission for Hyun as a father of 2 girls. In particular, Uganda's night commuting is etched in memory. Hyun still vividly recalls the look of fear and apprehension on the children's faces.
Basically, when the sun was falling, children who were living in the remote villages, for fear of being abducted during the night by the rebels, were walking, sometimes many kilometers at a time, children alone with their young siblings, brothers and sisters in their hands, the belongings on their backs, blankets and buckets for the night, coming into the main town areas, sleeping in schools, sleeping on the sidewalks. And this phenomenon called the night commuters, for me, it still has a very enduring image in my mind.
Hyun wants to return to the field eventually, to help children directly. That's his wish. And he's ready to go, wherever and whenever there's a need. Reflecting on his past 10 years, Hyun cherishes every moment, each unique and meaningful, until every child around the world is smiling. To their cause, Hyun dedicates his life.
My dream? I would say that it's a very simple one, is to continue to serve to be a part of an organization like UNICEF. I do see it as a force for good in the world that provides such a great positive influence on the lives of children and the future of the children and families. And so I continue to feel very privileged to be a part of that. And I would dream that I can continue to be working in this field and in my own modest way to also develop myself to become the best at what I do.
Nestled in Southeast Asia is a developing country, Cambodia. Here we meet another Korean UN staff. Jeong Ju Hyun is with the World Food Programme, the world's largest humanitarian agency fighting hunger. Today he's calling on Dak Nam village in Pravang province. It's a small farming village 3 hours out of the capital, Phnom Penh. Most of the villagers here are AIDS and HIV carriers. In addition to their health problems, these people are struggling financially. To provide them some relief, the WFP has been distributing rice in collaboration with a local NGO.
I know this ration that you are receiving every month is not enough to completely relieve your burden, but we hope it will provide a little bit of help to you.
Once a month, they distribute around 25 kilograms of rice. The amount is enough to tide the villagers over 1 month. The rice they receive is a small source of hope for the locals. For first-hand accounts and insights into the local food situation, Chong often engages the villagers in lengthy conversations.
But it still lasts half a month. Half a month.
Chong hopes to find the root of the food problem in the area. Heartened by a WFP promise to return in a month with more rice, the villagers head home. From the food distribution site, Chong travels on to make a house call. Recently, life in this household went from bad to worse. Stricken ill, both parents have had to give up work altogether. For the couple, their biggest concern is their daughter. By meeting with the family, Chong hopes to help them find a way out of their dire situation. Until recently, the family had survived on meager income earned through working at construction sites.
So she has been receiving the take-home ration.
The family actually owns a plot of land on which they could harvest rice, but it's too small. Their harvest barely lasts them 2 months. The rest of the year, they need to make a living elsewhere.
Yes, would she...
Praveng is an agricultural base conducive to rice farming, yet many locals fail to reap economic benefits from the land. The problem lies with the province's land imbalances.
About 20% of rural households have no land. An additional 25% or so have land, but very small plots, less than 1 hectare. So these landholding structures are one underlying issue of food insecurity. We can see another underlying reason for food insecurity is the lack of healthcare facilities or access to healthcare facilities. So these are some underlying causes of food insecurity here.
To try to make ends meet, the girl became the breadwinner. She had to skip school for work, much to her parents' dismay. But now that's changed. In an effort to ease their burden, Cheong has promised to include the girl in WFP's school meal program. In yet another bid to assist Cambodians, the WFP recently launched a new initiative. And projects are currently underway to improve food security and nutrition in collaboration with the Cambodian government.
It's the first time we have a 5-year development program, which reflects also the increased stability and capacity in the country, but also the willingness of the government of Cambodia to actually work on issues such as food security and hunger. And this development program is a real shift for WFP. We're moving from food aid to food assistance, which means like more the relief type of mode to development mode.
An important aspect of the WFP's assistance is to closely track consumer prices. It's because through keeping inflation in check, food security can also be ensured in the long term. To survey the latest food prices, Cheong visits nearly a dozen markets. First, he stops by at a butcher shop. This because meat prices have been soaring lately. Cheong tracks the prices of 8 items, including meat, fish, eggs, and oil.
There's a bigger market there. Okay.
The 8 items are known staples for Cambodians, and so they serve as core indicators that can be used to gauge the country's inflation rate. Cheong is thorough in his research of market conditions. He's still struggling with the Khmer language, but is able to get by, at times, with a little help. Such market research undertaken by WFP staff in the past 3 years has helped Cambodia fight inflation and stabilize its prices.
Collecting food prices in Cambodia is important because, for example, if a poor household has a similar wage level, so if the income is similar but the price of food increases very rapidly, the amount of food the household can buy decreases. So that has a negative impact on their food insecurity. So that's why WFP is very interested in maintaining a good price collection mechanism.
After seeing locals' hardships close up, with somewhat of a heavy heart, Cheong returns to his base in the capital, Phnom Penh. WFP Cambodia was set up in 1979. Since then, the global agency has been at the forefront of fighting hunger and malnutrition across Cambodia. 2 years ago, Cheong joined the Food Aid Organization and hit the ground running. On the heels of his trip to Praveng, Jeong is writing up his latest findings and observations. Working in the Vulnerability Analysis and Mapping Unit, Jeong focuses on assessing and analyzing Cambodia's food security data.
To support WFP programs, we need to collect a lot of primary data or secondary data, analyze it, and present it in a way that is useful for our programs, primarily for geographic targeting, but also to evaluate our programs and understand the impact of WFP programs on our beneficiaries.
On the field and in the office, Jeong is dedicated to his work.
What are we contributing towards, and just bringing more purpose, I think, to the field.
His interest in eradicating poverty apparently dates back to his college years.
We're all fairly confident.
It didn't take long for Jeong to find his true calling with the WFP.
I was interested in questions like, why are there so many poor in the world? Why are poor countries poor when there seems to be an abundance of resources in developed nations? And I had opportunities in college to visit some of the poorer parts of the world. And I think this question became more personal to me. You couldn't have decided in like the core group meeting or...
Jeong works with people from all corners of the globe. His passion and diligence are highly valued by his co-workers. Recently, Jeong shined during a presentation on food security for Cambodia.
And at this meeting, the government counterparts were giving presentations on a food security bulletin that WFP and other UN agencies had helped them prepare. John was very quickly able to provide an excellent presentation on the bulletin. It was very intelligent, it was very well spoken, very well organized. So that was an early sign to me that I knew John would fit very well within the MERVAM unit and with WFP in Cambodia.
Jeong is meeting with an official at the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries. On their agenda is the WFP-led 5-year development program for the development of sustainable national food security systems. The government of Cambodia has joined forces with the WFP.
So in order to support the Cambodian government to monitor the food security and nutrition situation in Cambodia, one thing that I'm responsible for is supporting the food security and nutrition data analysis team. So many different governmental officials coming together to collect data, but also analyze data and report on a regular basis the food security and nutrition situation.
From the meeting, Jeong heads to a WFP warehouse to check on food aid supplies. The WFP has 3 warehouses in Cambodia, but this one is the biggest.
All the commodity here store duration around 2 or 3 months, safe life in preparing for distribution. And most of this warehouse we distribution for food for work as an education program and all the health and nutrition.
The WFP warehouse is filled with rice, a staple for Cambodians. Some of the donations are from Jeong's homeland, Korea. For a while now, Korean corporations have been donating food supplies to the WFP. Even the canned foods are courtesy of a Korean firm. Through diverse means, Koreans have been helping Cambodia. Recently, they launched projects aimed at creating jobs locally. For every square meter of soil carried, the locals are given 3.5 kilos of rice. The added bonus is that they're also paving a road to a neighboring village. In the 1950s, war-torn South Korea sought aid from foreign countries, including Cambodia. Since then, from a poor aid recipient to a major donor, South Korea's status has changed. And in light of the past experience, South Koreans are able to better understand the needs of the aid-receiving nations.
It helped build this productive asset, this road, that helps the villagers travel to a nearby, a bigger market, helps children travel to school. And not only that, but it provides food, mainly rice, to over 150 households that participated in this food for work project. So as a Korean, I'm particularly proud of this road.
A beacon of hope to those in need. By helping to ease people's suffering, he shares their joy. And this, Cheong calls his priority in life.
That can take the form of many different kinds of jobs, but I think really trying to assist the poor and vulnerable in some form would be my goal.
"20 years on, South Korea is an active member of the UN, with its nationals leading various global efforts. All share a single goal: to create a better tomorrow for the world's citizens.